Hello, everybody, and welcome back to sweptmedia here at the convergence of AI and Web3. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that I'll be a media partner at Southeast Asia Blockchain Week. That's starting the first week of April. It's in Bangkok, so if you're around, let me know. We can talk about AI and Web3 and anything that is related there in between. Today's video is going to be about hyperscalers, specifically those hyperscalers that are most relevant to builders in AI, I guess more specifically in the Web3 niche of AI building, and starting with Aethir. Aethir is a project that I've talked about quite a bit on this show. Aethir is a DePIN protocol. Essentially, people contribute their idle compute power to their network, to the Aethir network, and that compute power is rewarded with ATH tokens. And then builders can tap into that compute power and use it to build their own applications, whatever they need it for. Aethir itself runs probably a large data center of H100s that is probably via a hyperscaling method of some sort. But this specific video is going to be about Coreweave and a potential, I don't know, maybe there's some kind of partnership in the works for Aethir. I don't know why a project like Aethir, which is so well funded and well respected at this point, would be mentioning and even doing a blog post about Coreweave if there wasn't some kind of partnership either signed and done, just not announced, or if there's already some kind of working arrangement between them. I don't want to spread any rumors, but in the world of enterprise and commerce, marketing wise, this is the last thing that would happen. A blog post about a third party entity, infrastructure provider like a hyperscaler like Coreweave. This is the last thing that would be sent out until after all the red lines have been checked in the contract and everything is done. So I believe that it's very, very likely that Coreweave and Aethir will be working together, although there is no evidence from either of them yet in black and white that that is actually the case. So at the risk of spreading any rumors, I want to make it clear that no, there is no announcement of Coreweave and Aethir working together yet. However, there are indicators that would lead me to believe that. So what is Coreweave and what is a hyperscaler? Let's begin by explaining that Coreweave is a very big hyperscaling company. They run, from what I understand, a number of data centers that provide a tremendous amount of compute power for the industry. As Aethir describes them, they're a fast-growing cloud provider specializing in high-performance AI workloads. So they're serving AI projects specifically. And they just went IPO, so good for them. Good for Coreweave. I hope it's going really well for them. And hopefully the AI industry can benefit tremendously from the GPUs that they're providing to the ecosystem. And here's Coreweave's social media account. They, of course, talk about NVIDIA and Blackwell. This conference, I believe this is the GTC 2025 conference. They have a new chief information security officer. A lot of these announcements are coming out as they're going IPO, which is to be expected. They're going to try to drum up as much mind share as possible, try to attract as much mind share as possible around their IPO going live. So that makes perfect sense. Next, what is hyperscale? In short, hyperscale, if you just think about the word hyper and scale, scale refers to the ability of a project to reach as many interfaces as possible, reach basically as many users as possible. When you're working at a low scale, you run into bandwidth issues, latency issues, basically an inability to compute or complete an output on it, just hypothetically, let's say like over 100 people. If more than 100 people are using your program at a time, it starts to slow down tremendously and the outputs that it generates are going to be very weak. The more scale you get, the more amount of users you can handle on your platform. Specifically within the context of infrastructure, scale means being able to provide as much compute power as possible across as many servers as possible. So a hyperscaler is going to be that thing that a protocol goes to in order to really supercharge their compute power and get their project into the hands of as many servers and thereby end users as possible. As illustrated by this graphic here, you have these clients and they're going to go through a load balancer and then all of these servers. This is hyperscale computing. The load balancing is essentially, okay, how much resources does each client need in order to complete the task they're trying to do. Usually those load balancers are going to have limits on it, and those limits are like basically quotas of we have X number of GPU compute power to give across the entire network. Each client right now, there are 500 clients, so that means they will each get Y amount of compute. If they don't use it, then that load balance can be transferred onto other extra clients. But there is a quota, and that's essentially what the load balance is. With a hyperscaler, your load balancer is going to be extremely powerful, and it's going to have a much higher quota of resources that you can use. So thinking about it like this, if let's say Aethir were to scale up to have something like 5 million users, okay, just hypothetically, 5 million users or 5 million clients using Aethir across the entire network, deriving GPU compute from them. The load balance on that would have to be pretty complicated. It would need to be very powerful as well. So they're going to have to increase the amount of compute power that they can provide to each client without having an issue of load balance, meaning the quotas are not going to be different unless there are different tiers of service that Aethir is providing. All of those things become more and more complicated the more and more users that you get. A hyperscaler helps you balance that seamlessly without interruption to service, and of course at a tremendous price. Now, this is all hyperscalers. Coreweave itself is a fairly new one. It's competing with the likes of like AWS and Google Cloud. Those are very big names, okay? Don't get me wrong. They're really big names for a reason. They're able to provide that type of service without interruption for the most part, and all eyes are on them. So competing with them is a double-edged sword in the sense that they can easily siphon some market share away from those giant behemoths in a sense, while also the downside would be that everyone's going to be trying to get to AWS. So it'll be once they're able to demonstrate their value proposition over those other competitors, then they can siphon a market share from a very quickly growing market. Now, I used my good friend Deep Research for this a little bit. What exactly is the relationship between Aethir and Coreweave? My question was this: how is Aethir using hyperscalers such as Coreweave? Now, this is a loaded question, and Deep Research was wise enough. I shouldn't say wise enough. It was cunning enough to know what I was kind of getting at. Aethir and Coreweave, a strategic relationship. There is no official articles or press releases confirming a direct partnership was found between Aethir and Coreweave. However, Aethir did write that blog post about Coreweave, congratulating Coreweave on their significance in the market, their growing significance, and on their IPO. Aethir views Coreweave's IPO as a potential catalyst for increased GPU demand and a strengthening of NVIDIA's market position because, of course, they're using H100s. Those are the primo chips to be using right now. The synergy between Aethir's decentralized model and Coreweave's centralized infrastructure is evident in their complementary offerings. Aethir's decentralized GPU cloud can complement Coreweave's centralized infrastructure by providing ultra-low latency GPU computing to clients located farther away from major regional data centers. That's a challenge that all cloud compute providers have, including Google Cloud and AWS. They have to be putting up more data centers in regional areas. For example, if you suddenly have a lot of people, a lot of companies springing up in like Bangladesh, your closest data center is in, let's say, Singapore or Tokyo or Turkey, you're going to have to put up a new data center closer to that area for a number of reasons. First of all, people want to physically go see the data center. People in Bangladesh are not going to likely want to fly 10 hours away to see their data center. Secondly, being able to provide the data closer with lower, the further you go, the more steps that your signal over the internet has to take, essentially. So when you are trying to go through, get to an internet site, a website in, let's say, South Korea, and you're living in Germany, there's a lot more steps that your ping has to go through in order to successfully pull up that site. The same idea goes for all that data that goes from a data center that's very far away as opposed to one very close. Same idea. The more steps, the longer distance, it actually does make a difference when it comes to data centers. Those two are the main things. And then, of course, being as close as possible power-wise, so that if there is a power outage, you can figure out in a more local sense how to fix the power outage. But what I'm finding more and more, at least what I found from Bitcoin miners, is that it's much more efficient to have self-powered data centers that are able to tap into the main power grid in a pinch. So this is the Coreweave website. They're not just providing compute power to Web3 companies. It's a all AI tech projects can go through Coreweave to get their compute, and I imagine more than just AI, but they do specialize in AI infrastructure. And another thing I wanted to know about Aethir, just to illustrate further how big Aethir has become already, even in this now, I think we're pretty much in a bear market now. I don't think that there's a doubt about it. Whether it's a short bear market or it will be an extended bear market, I have no idea. But this is no longer bullish conditions, even across macro. But that's a discussion for another day. Even in these conditions, Aethir has managed to pull off 512 million hours of compute delivered. Amazing stuff from Aethir. That's really, really tremendous. And Aethir's only been around for about a year now. So in that time, to be coming at mainly just the Web3, like decentralized compute, and have that many compute hours delivered, really great work. I hope to see more of this stuff come along. But that's essentially how hyperscalers work in a very simple sense, and how Aethir, which is one of the most consequential AI GPU compute providers for AI projects in Web3, is potentially working even closer with Coreweave in order to make our dreams happen with AI. So we'll see you next time. Thanks a lot.